to call the meeting of the Board of Commissioners to order. Please stand for the flag if you're able. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the board.
Chair.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. We got approval of county board minutes.
Second.
I have a motion to second. Further discussion. Having heard none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Any additions or deletions to the agenda, Beth?
We moved some things around. We moved the proclamation to 9 a.m. for National Adoption Month.
Okay.
And we've included some information for the sheriff's report. Other than that, I have no changes.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Further discussion. Having heard none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. All right, proclamation, National Adoption Month. We have Brad and Julia.
Actually, I think Melody's on her way.
There she is.
Here she is.
Right there. She's on her way. Morning.
Morning.
Morning, ladies.
Morning.
Morning.
Morning, Melanie.
Good morning.
Morning, Mel. Getting your jog in this morning? Yep. All right. Let the board know who you all are and what you're here for.
Gail Miller,
Okay,
and I'll be reading the proclamation.
okay, and,
I'm Julia Wise. I'm going to just do a little brief update later on in the agenda.
sounds good, and,
Melanie Erickson, supervisor, and these two do our state board adoptions, so that's why I asked
Okay.
them to be here today.
sure, well, good, welcome,
Okay.
welcome.
Thank you.
All right, you have the floor.
All right. Whereas there are 499 Minnesota children in need of placement in loving homes, 17 of these children are Morrison County child residents. Whereas nearly all of these children have special needs because of physical, mental, or emotional disabilities, because they must be placed as a sibling group, because they are children of color, or because they are school-aged. Whereas these children need extra patience and support to help them overcome previous hardships. Whereas children that age out of foster care are more likely to become homeless, incarcerated, or need the support of welfare benefits. Whereas in 2014, 11 Morrison County children who have special needs were adopted by families. Whereas there are families able and willing to adopt children who have special needs. Whereas there are 11 Morrison County children currently in pre-adoptive homes. Whereas children waiting for adoptive parents and families who adopted these children require and deserve community and public agency support. Now, therefore, be it resolved that November is hereby declared Adoption Awareness Month in Morrison County.
Thank you, and gentlemen, have a request before us?
I would so move on that proclamation.
Second.
Motion and a second, further discussion.
Mr. Chair, I would
Yes,
just like to
Commissioner
say
Zelinski.
thank you, and thank you to everybody that's involved in this program besides yourselves. And thank you, of course. It takes special people to take special people to become special people. And I truly can't thank everyone enough for programs such as that. Thank you.
Gentlemen, anything else?
Thank you, thank you.
Jeff said it all.
Well, thanks for all that you do, so I do, having worked in the system for a while, I'm very aware of the needs, and, yeah, it takes special people to work with this population, so.
Yeah.
All right, so I have a request and a motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right,
Okay.
thank you.
A quick photo with the
Thank you.
board about
Please.
adoption.
All right.
On your toes over.
You got that figured out?
I go get it.
Thanks, Beth.
Front row.
Thank you, Beth.
In the front row.
Getting
Show
there.
that proclamation.
Hi, Gabby, how are you?
Yep, there it is.
Nice.
You want to hold it? It'd be weird if my arm was just random in there.
I got like Mike's.
You see, Mike?
There, that's better. I'm gonna take one right. There, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, ladies.
Yeah, thanks, Dwayne.
And who gets this?
Thanks, Kevin.
Anybody over there?
I don't know who gets that.
Yep.
Okay.
So, great.
Later on, I thought she said. I thought she said later on.
Oh, okay, all right.
She must have something to do with such and such.
All right, TCC, Doug, come on up.
Good morning.
Good morning, Doug.
Thank you for that motion regarding adoption. As a parent of 3 adopted children and a daughter and son-in-law who adopted 5 Russian children under the age of 14 who couldn't speak a word of English when they arrived. Thank you. It's for recognizing the special role of adoptive parents.
And would you let the board and the public know who you are and what you're here for today?
Okay. Good morning. My name is Doug Jacobson. I'm here as the Executive Director for Tri-County Community Action at the invitation of Randy and Mike, just simply to introduce myself as a new Executive Director and tell you a little bit about Tri-County Community Action. I have an expression of appreciation that I would like to present this morning also, and then finally field any questions you might have for me. I promised Randy and Mike that my presentation would be no longer than a Lutheran sermon.
Okay, guys. I've never been to a Lutheran sermon, so I'm really lost here. Anyways, go on. We'll see.
Okay. Who am I? I'm a lifelong learner from both personal experience and experience of others. I grew up south of Benson, Minnesota on a farm down in Swift County. Graduated from high school back in '68. Basic life choice of farm boys back in that time, if they didn't want to go to college, was to go in the military, which I did. Spent a year in Vietnam. Came out of the military experience with a wife and 4 children to support, and decided that I didn't want to do that as a soldier, but rather as a farmer, although I'd never intended to farm. My dad, brother, and I had about 3,000 row crop acres down in the Benson, Murdoch area. I farmed for 9 years. We had a large dairy operation and beef operation also. And the second year was the wettest year on record. The 4th was the earliest killing frost on record. The 6th was drier than the Dust Bowl years. The 8th was the tightest cost price squeeze, and I was probably the only farmer in Minnesota at the time who had a complete debit credit accounting system, so I couldn't even lie to myself about how much money I was losing. Finally, the last year, we had 5 inches of rain in 2 hours' time. Tornado went through the building site, the main barn burned down, and total hailed out of the crowd. So in 1980, I became a single parent of 4 teenagers, went on what is called welfare, AFDC, today called TANF, also food stamps, today called SNAP benefits, became a single parent, 4 teenagers, and went on to college. Graduated from the University of Minnesota Morrison, and went on from there to the University of Minnesota Graduate School of Social Work and got a master's degree in social work. Worked as a clinical therapist for 10 years in the social work field and finished it out as a foster home developer. Then I went back and got an MBA from the University of South Dakota while I worked in the large-scale construction field and also international computer manufacturing. We had 35 plants throughout the world. We manufactured Dells, HPs, Compacts, all the big players' motherboards. Finally, 12 years ago, I went back into the human service world, the Head Start world, and now into the camp world. So, and at that point, I earned a nonprofit leadership certificate. So that's just a little bit of my background. I started with TCC 100 days ago. Randy and Mike can attest that I was 6'2" when I started there. We've been running pretty fast, and I'm wearing down quickly. I'm down to about 5'1" now. What is community action, or what is Tri-County Community Action? An emphasis on the word action. We're a 501c3 nonprofit community action program with a mission of enabling and empowering those residents of Morrison, Todd, and Crow Wing County who wish to move beyond a life of economic poverty. We have a number of programs. Grand total is about an $8 million budget. Biggest program is our Head Start Prenatal to 5 program. We serve 642 children in the 3-county area. We serve them in both classroom, home-based, and combination option settings. For those of you that aren't familiar with Head Start Prenatal to 5, essentially it's an early childhood education program, but it takes a systemic approach, which is very different than what our public schools are able to offer, and certainly different than what child care providers. We do partner with childcare providers in the community too. So we address not only the educational needs of those children prenatal to 5, but we also address the health needs, the dental needs, the needs of the parents for goal setting and attainment of those goals to get out of poverty. That is our largest program. We also offer a small business loan program. We did 7 small business loans in 2015. We have childcare business startup loans. We have transportation loans for low-income people who need repair or purchase of a used vehicle in order to go to their jobs. We have income tax preparation services. In 2015, we did 1,218 income tax returns, which brought back $1,326,217 into the 3 counties. Morrison County, by the way, had 759 of those returns. We have a Family Assets for Independence program from Minnesota, helping individuals save for housing, purchase their own house, a business, or advanced education. We have a weatherization program. We weatherized 85 homes in the last year, and we did a number of audits for Minnesota Power, electrical audits. We have a small disaster loan program for Crow Wing County for the windstorm that went through last, I believe, July, August. I'm sure you're familiar with that. We offer emergency service grants, covers such things as car repair, insurance, gas, housing, rent, home repair, and utilities for low-income individuals. We did 209 of those grants last year. And then finally, we do a Minnesota, a MNsure assessment and referral service. Tri-County Community Action exists because of legislation that came out of the federal government 50 years ago during Lyndon Johnson's War on Poverty. They passed what's known as the Community Service Block Grant legislation, which funded anti-poverty programs through the states, and they also passed the Head Start legislation. So we've been going for 50 years, still fighting the issue of poverty. Randy asked me the other day about it, do you think we'll ever get everybody out of poverty? And I said, I doubt it. But a metaphor that I like to think about is that child, and you probably heard this metaphor, walking down the beach, and there's hundreds of starfish on that beach, and he's throwing them out one at a time back into the ocean. And there's an old man watching him, and as the child approaches the old man says to him, why are you doing this? You're not going to make a difference. And the child stood there for a while and looked at him and thoughtfully and reached down and picked up another starfish and threw it out in the ocean and looked up at the old man and says, made a difference to that starfish. And that's what we are. We're making a difference when we can in any individual way. Morrison County Board of Commissioners have served on our board. Ours is a tripartite board. It's by legislation. All CAP programs are tripartite boards. In other words, a third of their members are elected public officials, a third are representatives of the community, and a third are representatives of the low-income population in the community. So I would like to present, in recognition of 50 years of partnering together with the Morrison County Board of Commissioners, a certificate of appreciation this morning, which again just says a thank you for 50 years together.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I look forward to continuing to collaborate with the Morrison County Social Services and Programs and the people of Morrison County, in particular with this Board of Directors. Special thank you to Randy and Mike, that currently serve on our board.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Other
Doug.
questions, gentlemen? Anything you'd like answered, or? All right, well, thank you for the certificate. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
And for all the information.
Thanks, Doug.
Yes, we can
Thank you.
take a picture with you.
Photo time, Doug, if you wish. You'll probably want to put me up front so they can see me.
We can deal with that.
We can give you a stool to get you back to 6-1 though, if you like.
Pardon?
We can get you a stool to get you back to 6-1 if you like.
Trust me, we've got all the hate behind us.
There we go.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you. Thank you so much for your work.
Watch yourself.
Okay.
I don't know what you're doing.
All right, Fish Trap Lake owners, or,
Pass this.
come on up.
Hey, I'm
Ron.
Ron.
Hi, Ron.
Ron Napan, live on Fish Trap Lake, chairman of the Fish Trap Lake Improvement District.
Morning, Ron.
Morning, guys.
Welcome.
Thank you. So this year was kind of a different year now for Fish Trap, because I'm sure you're all aware that we found out we had zebra mussels. So just to start out with, I thought I pretty much put myself out of a job, because we barely had any curly leaf that we found on the lake. I had to twist the NR arms just to let us treat 8 different spots of about an acre. And basically I did
An
that.
acre each, or?
An acre each, yeah.
So 8 acres. Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
they were fairly sparse. The DNR was like, well, they're kind of not that much there, but they also had given us a $6,000 grant that we wouldn't get if we didn't treat. So it was kind of a wash, and I figured we might as well treat that little bit. The biggest problem we have is now that's been 2 years. Normally before that, we had treated 60 to 70 acres. And so basically we've pretty much killed off the curly leaf. It's supposedly the turians, the seed pods that sit in the bottom, can last 3 to 5 years. So we haven't said there's nothing, but now 2 years in a row, we haven't really had any, just a few minor spots. Not that we haven't had any weeds, because last year was probably the worst year in ages, because we didn't have any snow. And they really started out a lot sooner. It's the worst that I've ever seen. The one thing, if you look at the budget, I kind of have it set up the same as the previous couple of years, anticipating that it'll probably be similar, just a small, sparsely populated area of the curly leaf. Our board decided that we would drop the assessment down to, I was in favor of just making it 0, but we weren't sure with the commissioners and how it worked as far as if we dropped it, if we'd have to have an issue starting up the lid again, or if there's anything, so we were gonna just drop it to just $10, because then it would be enough to kind of cover our costs if we don't get a grant, if it stays the way it is. But we also have a pretty decent ongoing balance that I've kind of been against holding on to, but the problem is we don't know what's gonna happen now with the zebra mussels. So the board was kind of like, we don't know if there's much to do. We had some extra expenses for mailing, because we had a meeting with a bunch of people for the residents to find out about zebra mussels. People were all, what can we do, what can we do? I pretty much said, well, if there's anything you could do, Gull Lake wouldn't have zebra mussels. You know, they've got tons of money, and they've just had to deal with them, and we're kind of learning about it now. There's talk of inspection programs. I know that the Property Owners Association has worked a little bit to find out if they're gonna do that. I think it'd be great. I personally don't really wanna get involved with what would be involved. I know that Crow Wing County has offered, we could kind of get in on their program. I know Chuck Salter and stuff has talked to some of you, maybe Kevin, about some of those situations. But right now, the main thing I was here for is that we're gonna drop it to $10. So it'll be real minimal, just to kind of keep things rolling. I'm not sure I don't know enough about the lid ongoingness. If we don't have curly leaf, in another year or so, what we would do.
Okay. Gentlemen,
Mr.
questions?
Chair?
Commissioner
Sure.
Johnson?
What have you usually been, down to $10 this year? What's it
It was
usually?
40.
It was 40?
It's been 40
Okay.
for 5 or
Okay,
6 years.
Okay,
Yeah.
and that's,
Because that was more, because our expenses used to be more like 25,000 when you had
Sure.
the treating all the acres. The problem is you treat less, there's still certain fixed costs for the company doing it and all that stuff. And actually, the smaller areas, you have to use more chemical to get the proper
and
concentrations.
even a $40 one is pretty cheap. I
Yeah.
know a lot of good things have been done with the Lake Improvement District.
Right, we've had really good luck with the curly leaf.
Yeah, thank you.
So that's the main thing.
And if I may,
Commissioner
Mr.
Winchell?
Chair, if you're bringing up these zebra mussels, I personally, I think too, it's just, you might as well just let them, because there's really nothing
Right.
that anybody can do, and I think you're just throwing money away if you're trying to prevent them until they actually come out
With something.
something that would
Yeah.
dispose of them.
Yeah, our goal more is what the county wants to do as far as getting it into other lakes. We've been all worried we were gonna get milfoil, because Chaminade and Alex have it, but now the shoe's kind of on the other foot.
And then you
that-
can bet Lake Alexandria will have zebra mussels here shortly too.
Yeah, I kind of have the same, they're so hard to find.
Right.
I know and we've supposedly had them now for a few years, and nobody noticed. Now I finally have talked to a few people that have noticed. I didn't notice anything on my stuff, but, I don't know even if technically we're chartered to do zebra mussels. Because it's like aquatic weed control, I didn't look through the whole deal. But that's just something we might have to think about in the future if we do decide to do something with the lid as far as using that money to pay for inspections or the property owners. I don't know how that works. I know it's kind of everywhere.
But
Not-
did-
Commissioner, are you done? Oh, I'm sorry,
Well, no,
if you're not done, go
My
ahead.
point was is that, didn't you're the one to mention that they're as small as a pinhead, correct?
Oh, yeah,
The-
they're
the-
tiny.
The villagers, yeah.
Right,
it's
so
just
how
very
would you
tiny.
even do inspections?
Yeah. Commissioner Jones?
Mr. Chair?
Sure.
I guess I'm just curious as to what do you really have in the bank, number one?
Okay, we got 21,000 in the bank.
Okay, and number two is I'm anticipating that you have a or several meetings throughout the year, and I'm just curious as to the population, pro or against. Obviously, you're going down from 40 to 10, that's a
Yeah.
wonderful thing, good for you. However, what happens if it was from 40 to 80? Are people pretty content with where you are with that?
I think people, to be honest, I mean, it's such a tiny percentage of what their property taxes are in Fish Job Lake that
Okay.
there's probably tons of people who don't hardly even know what it is.
And then my next question would be, only because you brought it up, is what happens if something has to be changed on that charter? And I kind of look at Deb at the same time. Do you simply have to come in and make an adjustment to what you do with the money? I mean, I don't know.
Can I-
Deb? Yes.
Yeah, what we need to do is, for some of the lake improvement districts that have been in existence for several years now, their programs are outdated. They were set to expire after 5 years or 10 years, depending on when they were put in place. And they need to work with Helen to get new programs.
Yeah, the lake vegetative management.
Yep, they need to have new management programs put in place through the DNR. They need to be approved by the DNR.
Right.
And that's something that Hallen's office is willing to work with them on. She's gonna supervise that program.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we're gonna meet with Chris.
Good.
here. I mean, it's been in this fall's list, but
Perfect.
then we're gonna get people from the cities together.
Yeah, all of the older lake improvement districts need to go through and have their management programs,
Okay.
all their,
Yeah,
all the
lake
programs
vegetative
reviewed.
management plan.
Yep, that's something that we need to make sure that they're aware of. So
Yep.
I'm glad you brought that up. And the other thing you mentioned about your budget, you can go down to zero, you can be at zero for several years.
Okay.
And as long as you're still holding your annual meetings and doing everything else you're supposed to do, you can come back the next year and do $200 if you want, or $5, and you're still a lake improvement district.
Right, okay. Yeah, we just weren't sure how it would go. And, I mean, I'd be fine making it zero myself, just because we have enough. Well, the problem is we have like enough to cover if suddenly it came back. That's the only thing that I worry about. If we make it zero, then we wouldn't have, we'd have enough in the bank to cover it now. And it's kind of a crazy process, because we have to like tell you guys what we need, and then we don't know how much weeds we have until May, and the insurance stays about the same, so.
Well, and I don't know if it's written down anywhere, but is there some point in time where you want to maintain a certain balance in that account? I'd sure hate to see you be at zero and, a year
So-
goes by and all of a sudden there is something, well, you don't have anything, and then you have to wait another year
Right.
to enact a fee, call it whatever you want to,
Yeah.
to do that. But I would certainly think that you would want to maintain some kind of a balance.
Right, and basically, the main reason we've gotten the balance, because you can see we only collect 13,000. So it's been the DNR grants that have kind of, but we never know what they're gonna be. One year was like
Absolutely.
20,000, the next year was 1,000, this year was 6,000.
And what happens the following year when it's zero?
Right.
That's
Yep.
right, and
Yeah,
so
it's just
I was at the meeting, okay, at the Fish Trap Association and the lid meeting, and I think your board voted on the $10. So
Right.
in order to discontinue that now, to bring it to zero, you'd have to go
Then
back
I'd
to
have
the
to have it.
board. So
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with keeping a balance in there. I think if something comes up and with the stuff with the zero muscle and where we're going with that, whether checks or whatever are gonna happen, okay? I think this is okay next year when you come in, if you're gonna drop it to zero, knowing now what
Sure.
our auditor said, then you can do that. So I'm okay with the $10 at this point. I just also wanted to ask you, Ron, if you would get to the board, or actually get to our county auditor, get to Deb, a list over the last 5 years of how much your grants were from the DNR.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can
Okay,
do
so
that.
get that to Deb, and I've talked to the other Lake Owner Association about that. The reason for that is that in talking to our legislators, okay, the money that came to the county to address AIS, okay, was not to be in lieu of grants.
Oh,
And our legislators want to know, Paul Gazelka and Ron Kresge want to know if indeed the DNR is cutting grants because now the county's getting this money.
Oh, yeah.
Because it wasn't to supplant that, it was to be an addition. So we want to know that, and I got to get that information to Paul
Sure.
Gazelka, so.
I can
All
get
right.
that. I'll talk to our
That would be
treasurer and
helpful.
get it
Okay.
to you
Okay.
as quick as I can.
Gentlemen, further discussion on that,
I would so move on that.
and do I have a second?
Second,
Further discussion, gentlemen.
just thank you for all you guys do.
Yep. Yeah, you do a lot of good things.
Thanks.
All right. Roll call vote, Commissioner Jelinski,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson,
Aye.
Commissioner Wincher,
Aye.
and aye. All right, Ron.
Great.
Thanks, Ron.
Thank you.
Ron.
I'll get that, I'll get that
Thanks
to
for your time,
you. and
Ron.
we'll- Yeah.
Okay, get it to Deb.
Okay, I
Thanks,
will.
Ron, have a good day, appreciate all you do.
Yep, thank you.
All right, Court Administrators Report, Rhonda, good morning.
Morning.
Year,
Good morning, Rhonda.
busy year for me anyway.
Okay,
As you may recall, Morrison County Court Administration was implement the electronic filing of documents. We started that about 3 years ago. Finally, we're done piloting, and they're rolling it out statewide. So now my staff are gonna be helping the rest of the counties with training and all of that. So we're pretty excited about that, getting that statewide. We're asked to pilot another project, which is the electronic communication between us and the judges. So when a report from social services or probation comes in, we used to have to notify them it's theirs, either send it electronically. Now it'll all go to them automatically. So we're piloting that, and we have a brainstorming session at 10 o'clock today as well. So we have people from state court coming up to help work with us. So we're really excited about that. We're the first electronic filing county doing this in the whole state.
Cool.
Yes,
Very cool.
Just in Morrison or the?
just in Morrison, yes.
okay, good.
The other new change is my supervisor in Douglas County retired last year. I hired somebody, she left. So I'm utilizing Sherry Chris, the supervisor here, as a joint Douglas Morrison supervisor. So you won't see her much around here, at least until probably spring. And I am no longer the Wadena County Court Administrator. I am now the Douglas, Todd, and Morrison Court Administrator. And that took effect November 9th.
Wow.
Lot
Closer.
of changes.
Sure.
Yep.
All right,
So
Questions,
that's all I
gentlemen?
have.
I have none.
Good update.
yes.
Thank you.
Hard work.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm proud of my staff here, and Morrison County's been very instrumental with all this electronic filing, and
Good.
Mr.
proud to
Chair,
be a part of it.
It's nice to hear from Rhonda. I mean, the court is, state function on all that, but they're located here. We provide that. We see each other every day, so it's nice to just have you come in and talk to the board and remind them that you're here and
Yeah.
doing that important work, and we
And
work
I
well
really
together.
apologize for not making it to department head meetings very often.
But that's gonna
Tough with
change.
my, yes, yeah. I would love to.
Yeah,
I'm
but it
like,
works
yay.
good. I mean, very responsive. Rhonda and I, if there's anything that's going on with the building or anything like that, she's certainly, we work together
Yep.
and we figure that out. And
We know
and I
where you're
appreciate
at.
the-
Exactly.
Yeah,
And now I might even be closer. I mean, Todd, I can just drive right over.
excellent.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Ron.
Thank
Ron,
you very
appreciate it,
kindly.
have a good day. You too. All right, Sheriff's Report. Sean can't be hunting yet.
No, he's in Seattle.
Oh, that's right, he was going on a trip, okay, cool, well, good morning.
Morning.
Morning, Jason.
Morning.
Morning, chief.
Morning, Commissioner. All I have is the contract agreement between the Morrison County and the Dr. McGee Medical Examiner
Right.
that I believe Sean
We reviewed in
presented
our
to
planning
you.
session,
Yep.
yep.
And basically, we just need the signature on that to get it back to Dr.
I'll
McGee.
vote and a signature, gentlemen.
I'll move on that, Mr. Chair.
I'll second that.
A motion and a second on the state medical examiner contract with, is that Ramsey?
Yeah, Dr.
And that's
McGee.
done annually.
Yep,
Annual-
Mr. Chair,
annual.
every year,
Annually.
this is the agency and has been for quite a number of years that performs this function for us, and it's an annual contract that we enter into.
And this was reviewed by our county attorney?
Yes.
Of course, yes, very good.
And nothing's changed.
All right,
Basically, just having the sheriff sign it, it's the only
okay.
change.
Have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Having heard none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Perfect, Jason. We'll
Very
get that
good,
to you.
Jason.
I'll sign later today.
Do you need this one then?
Is that all you need there, sir?
That's all I needed.
Well, thank
You gotta
you.
love
Thank
coming
you.
to a
Thank
board
you.
meeting when that's all there is to it.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, I do.
All right.
Thanks,
All right,
Jason.
thank
Have
you.
a good day.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, social services report. Brad.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioner.
Morning, Brad.
Good morning.
And you're back.
So, given the fact that it is National Adoption Month, we thought we would give you a snapshot of some of the kids that we're working with and the efforts our staff are providing to these kids. And this really is a critical function of what we do, because a lot of these kids are, we're not adopting out babies who were just born to parents who aren't necessarily interested in parenting yet. We're working with some of those families and kids who have been traumatized. And so we're here to give you just a snapshot of what we do. So I'll turn it over to Melanie first. I think she's going to go first.
Yeah, I'm just going to spend a little bit of time talking about our numbers and our trends, and then I'm going to let Julia do some talking. I asked Julia and Gail to come with today because they have information and can answer questions, especially related to just the amount of resources and time that the families and kids require when we're doing state board adoptions, that these are often very special needs kids. So in 2014 and 15, you can see our numbers were pretty similar, and this is an increase that we've experienced recently because of so many of our cases really going to permanency because of I would say, specifically due to the severity of the drug issue that we're experiencing in Morrison County. Previous to that, I think we had run around somewhere between about 8 to 10 cases on an average, and that was again a jump from back before methamphetamine, which was around 2 or 3 cases a year. So we've just kind of seen this steady increase. And then also with that, permanency laws have changed, and so there is a time limit that kids can stay in foster care. And there's also expectations with the state that a child that enters foster care within 24 months, we should be at permanency hearing for those kids and have a successful adoption, which can be hard to make sometimes, although our numbers look pretty good, because sometimes those deciding whether or not we can go to a termination of parental rights sometimes extends well past a year in the court process, so that can delay that.
Mr. Chair, if
Yes,
I may interrupt,
Commissioner.
when you say that there's a timeline on adopt, what happens to these children if you can't put them up for adoption?
Well, the timeline is really a goal for us, not something that nothing happens if we don't reach it. But the state and the federal government has set a standard that, that we try to, for the majority of our cases, meet that goal of having permanency within 24 months.
So there's no funding loss, but
No
they
funding
take all that
lost at
stuff
this
in.
time. No, it's just, it would then become a part of our program improvement plan that we work on. And that did happen to us a couple of years ago, and that's when we did increase our efforts with relative search, and we expanded time for state board case managers. And so that was a result of that program improvement plan, and since that time, we've been meeting that standard. So
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Jelinski.
if I may interrupt, Melanie? I understand the 2-year window, I'm very clear on that. If the 2-year window becomes a 3-year window, or a 4-year window, a 10-year window, whatever that might be, these kids are still certainly safely contained, if that's the right word that I want to use, in a foster home environment, if you will.
the majority of the time, they would be in foster care, and I think Julie will speak to this a little bit later, but the longer kids are in foster care without permanency, the harder it is on them.
Sure, no, I'm
Yeah,
not disagreeing.
so then sometimes that in turn leads us to a situation where we need to access corporate foster care or residential treatment, because that becomes emotionally
Oh,
difficult for them.
gotcha, very good, thank you.
Just to give some perspective to these numbers as well, we have so far in 2015, we've had 62 kids in foster care for a variety of reasons, okay? And right now, as we sit here today, currently we have 45 kids in foster care. So our state wards represent around 35% of our actual total numbers of kids in care today. You can see that we've had pretty good success with relative adoptions this current year, and the relative adoptions really ebb and flow. We do a lot of work, as we've discussed here before, with relative arrangements and engaging relatives early on. Sometimes we can divert placements entirely, and sometimes we will have relatives and the families involved in child protection decide to make their own arrangements for permanency, and they will do a transfer without doing that a part of our court process. So I think that's a successful effort whenever families can help take care of families and resolve some of those issues. But we do have relatives that then provide care and then do become adoptive parents, and that, I think overall, those kids really fare the best in our situations.
I really do.
I think I'll just have you jump into your.
Yeah.
Right now, and Gail, if you have anything to add.
I just wanted to kind of, give you a little bit of information just briefly on some of the challenges that we face and also some of the strengths within our program. I thought you might think it's interesting that I've done adoptions for about 12 years, and I've had 79 kids on my caseload be adopted in those 12 years. I keep track of that just because it's kind of interesting for me to keep track of. Gail is my partner in adoptions, and she's not quite a year into it yet, but she's already finalized 2 or 3? Two. So we have several a year that we finalize. Some of those are very much smooth and easy, and we can get them done in 6 to 9 months. Other kids that we work with are in the system for a lot longer, and it's because of their special needs. As Melanie mentioned, as far as the trauma they've experienced, that can make them very difficult to find homes for. But I kind of wanted to start more with the strengths, just because I think we do have a strong program here in Morrison County. We kind of do everything centered around a team approach. So when I'm looking for a foster home for a family of children or a single child, I don't act alone with that. We work as a team. We have a very strong team concept. So when I'm reviewing home studies for children, Gail, if she's the other adoption worker, or we might have a children's mental health worker, the guardian ad litem, the former child protection worker on that case, we all get together, read those home studies, decide who we'd like to interview. After we interview the families, we get together again to decide who we'd like to move forward with. And then that team concept doesn't end there. We then take it to our juvenile treatment screening team for approval. That's a whole different group of people that get to hear what we have to say about the family and approve us moving forward with that family for the kids. So that team concept is huge. The other thing that's really nice, throughout the state of Minnesota, there's several private agencies that are specialized adoption recruitment agencies. So if Gail or I have a case with especially the older kids that maybe have a lot of diagnoses and they have a lot of special needs, we will contract with one of those agencies that specialize in searching the state of Minnesota for a home just for those kids. So they can spend their whole day just working on trying to locate a home, whereas we have other job responsibilities. So those specialized adoption agencies are really helpful. Wendy's Wonderful Kids is the one that we work with primarily, but there are a few others. So that's been really helpful. That service is of no charge to the county. It doesn't cost us a thing. The state pays them to do that work. So that's really beneficial. The other thing the state of Minnesota has done in the last couple of years is they've found therapists that are willing to become what they call adoption competent. So they've specialized and trained those therapists to work with these adoptive families that have adopted really difficult kids. And so those therapists are kind of sprinkled throughout the state to work with those families. They also, a couple of years ago, around the same time they were working on that, they developed kind of a hotline for people that have adopted kids. So if they're really struggling, they can call the hotline and say, I don't know what to do with this kid, or this is behavior I have and I don't know what to do. And so it's a hotline that's available for everybody in Minnesota that's adopted. So that's really helpful, I think, to those families as well. And And I don't think it's any secret to you in regard to challenges that those behaviors and those special needs make some of these kids difficult to adopt, especially with the older kids. And then sometimes, Randy, just to kind of go off of what you were saying, if they don't get adopted and they stay in care, we can actually provide services to them until they're 21. It's the Extended Foster Care Benefits Program that goes from 18 to 21 that helps them if they want to enter college and they need additional funding, they need help paying for an apartment. So that's a great program for those older kids that have aged out and not been adopted. I think the other challenge that we just face is, number one, finding families that are willing to take on this challenge, and number two, getting services set up in their particular area of the state. Either it's a remote part of the state that doesn't have a lot of services, or it's a part of the state we're not familiar with and we don't know where those services are, like in-home therapy that can help the family work with the kids. So services can kind of be a challenge for those families too. But I mean, I think overall we do a really good job of finding permanency for our kids. And so I'm pretty proud of that. I mean, I think that even though at times it's difficult work and at times families don't make it and they rescind their rights at some point, I think we've had very few of those that have actually done that. So.
Just a couple other points maybe I would like to make is that some of you may remember a couple years ago, the board approved a position that allowed us to increase our relative search activities. And so that, I think, is partly a correlation of that. A couple of other points are, this is probably an area that ebbs and flows the most depending on our caseloads. And so we have to adjust caseloads and staff time to this position, to these kids because of the ebb and flow nature. And so it's a testament to the staff and to Melanie's flexibility to be able to manage these caseloads depending on the size and scope of the kids. And so I think when Julia said the strong team concept, I think that goes across the agency to the child welfare and child protection areas. And then I think also, you know, we might say there's a 24-month timeline for these kids in terms of getting to permanency, but even before we've gotten to court, our agency has probably worked with them significantly even before that, trying to prevent court action, trying to keep the family stable. And so these kids have been in the system for a lot more than just 24 months from the time that we start the court action to permanency. And so that's part of the reason some of these kids are very difficult to place. But the staff do a great job in trying to find families, to provide stability, and to provide support to these kids if they're not able to find a permanent family. And so it's just the good work that they do. So I really appreciate that from them and the whole staff.
Questions, Commissioner Jelinski?
I'm just curious, and I don't know that anybody has the answer, and if you don't, so be it. How does Morrison County average statewide? We see numbers here, whether it's foster care or whether it's actual placement in adoption. Is there any kind of number?
I know that our rate of placement is, it meets the state standard. Actually, it's a little below the state standard. I would say our rate of placement, and that would be for all kids, is under our cohorts.
Yes,
by
yes.
quite a bit.
So we do very well in that.
Okay.
Yes, so
Very
our efforts to our relevant arrangements, I think, and keeping kids in their homes safely or having relatives help with that is a big piece to that, and that again goes back to the board's investment in our relative engagement positions.
Thank you.
And the state does compare us on these numbers. The challenge is our cohort is so small that one kid can really just turn it around. So, but the state does do a child welfare report that shows where we stand, and I think we've done fairly well in terms of adoptions.
Commissioner Wilson, did you have something?
Yeah, when you say under, you mean that's good.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I also want to thank you for all you do for the kids that need the help. I know it's challenging, and I'm glad there's somebody that can do that. So, thank you.
And if I may, Mr. Chair, one other thing, when you place a child, you know, and I know you do a lot of background checks on these parents and that sort, does the parent, do they get to meet the child before they commit? Or, you know what I'm saying, does, you know, maybe live with them for a week or a month or before they do adoption? Is that out there?
That's a really great question, and that kind of varies. If it's a foster parent that's adopting, obviously they have that kind of history. But with the really difficult to place kids, we don't want them like trying them on, so to speak, like a pair of shoes. So we want to make sure that we do all the work up front, so when the child meets the family, that's it, and it moves to adoption. We do a lot of work before the child even knows that they're being looked at by a family, so that they're not just there for a month and then the family says, I guess this isn't working out. We don't want that.
Because anytime I just want to add on to what Julia said, anytime we connect a child to that family and it falls apart, it's another loss to that child, which creates more trauma. And so we want to make sure it's a good fit for both the child and the parent. And they do a lot of work up front, even before giving the foster parent or adoptive parent lots of information.
Mr. Wilson?
Is there an age group to where, I mean, I know at 18, they're probably on their own. So is there an age where you're not doing it anymore? If you can't find a spot? Or-
There is not, there used to be emancipation, so at 16, a kid could go to the court and say, I want to be on my own. That's no longer the case. So at 18 really is when we're done. However, probably efforts.
17. I
17.
think that legislative change just happened
So-
this last year. At 17, a child can say they do not want to
Yeah.
pursue adoption anymore.
But there's also that 18 to 21 program.
Yeah.
So I have a 20-year-old on my caseload, and I also, all the way down to infants. So they can go, I have infant, a 20-year-old, I'll keep him till he's 21, and then he's on his own after that.
The state used to allow 14-year-olds to opt out of adoption, but they've raised that to 17. But we'll keep trying. It's not, as they get older, we're probably less actively searching out, and that's where we use other resources maybe to just say, if you got any options, let us know.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Lots of
Good
good
information.
Thank you.
All right, well,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
That's all
Appreciate
all I
all
have
you
to
do.
say.
Thank
you.
Thank you for the report. Public health report.
Michelle is here today.
Hi, Michelle. Come on up.
Katie was unable to
Morning.
make it. Good morning.
Good morning, Michelle.
She asked if I could step in. Good morning.
There you go.
We'll be brief. This morning, we're just looking for board action to approve a new license for the Falls Bar. The Falls Bar went under new ownership here, and Scott Haggerty has now purchased that and has applied for, our licenses do not transfer, so the new owners need to come in. So I'll just ask the board to approve the change of ownership license for Scott Haggerty owning the Falls Bar.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Pretty easy, Michelle, thank you.
Have a good day.
Beth, you got here
Extension
just in
report.
Wow, there we go.
Morning.
Outstanding. Good morning, Beth.
How's everybody?
Good, Beth.
Good. I don't feel like it's morning though, looking out those windows. It's kind of, well, I know I just saw a couple of you at a meeting a couple weeks ago, but what have we been up to? I've been meeting and talking and planning is what I've been up to lately. So lately I visited with Molly Zins. She works for the Central Regional Sustainable Development Partnership, so part of Extension. She's based out of Brainerd, and we really wanted to talk about opportunities of funding different projects down the line. And really, I wasn't aware of kind of that branch of Extension and what they do. But my goal is to offer a high tunnel tour in 2016. And so I wanted to see if that would be potential funding opportunity. And there is some chance there, but they're kind of big project. They shoot for like projects that are $4,000 to $20,000. So they do have a small little scholarship type thing, and so I'm going to seek that out. But I've also visited a high tunnel location, and I'm in contacts with potential couple others. So that's my goal, to have that go through. I put my own up this weekend, but I'm not ready to have a tour there because I don't know what I'm doing. So
Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Commissioner
Would
Wilson.
you say high what?
High tunnel or a hoop house?
Oh,
So
greenhouse
it's,
for-
yeah,
Greenhouse.
seasonal
Greenhouse.
extension.
Okay.
Yeah,
There you
yeah.
go.
If you'd have just said greenhouse, I know.
Yeah, but it's not really a greenhouse because there's not heating
Yeah,
in
yeah,
these, and so
okay.
it's really just seasonal
High
extension.
and it's a tunnel.
It's high and it's a tunnel.
So, Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Jelinski.
perhaps you can tell us a little bit about a high tunnel.
A high tunnel. So a high tunnel varying in size, but mine as well as many of these individuals, they received an NRCS grant. So through the Natural Resource Conservation Service, it's an EQIP grant, and it will do 100% cost share for up to 2,100 square feet, 2,150, something like that. And it's an opportunity for growers here in Minnesota, although this year, you know, you could probably still have lettuce growing outside if you really worked at it, but we normally don't have this. And so it's giving vendors an opportunity to extend that. Construction of it varies a bit. You know, most of them structures are built to withstand snow, and some growers will take the plastic off every year. This one is not gonna do that. It is a lot of work. If put on well, the plastic will last about 5 years, and then it's to redo. But it's definitely giving them a bump a month ahead of, you know, their tomatoes and their everything is done a month ahead, as well as allowing them to grow some things that just maybe not hardy enough, and gives them that winter protection as well as, like I said. Varying, in March, we'll be 15 degrees warmer inside that than you will be outside, 15 to 20 degrees warmer, so stop in mine if you want. I don't know what'll be in it in March, but,
So are you thinking that you could have something in there in March? Is that?
it depends on this coming spring, you know. I think this last year, some people really pushed it, more like an April 1 that they started putting some
So
stuff.
inside this high tunnel, are we actually then having pots and stuff like that?
Right into the ground,
Okay.
and that's part of, if they got an NRCS grant, they have to do it that way, yeah.
If I may, doesn't Mr. Schilling have a high tunnel?
Shillings have two
Yep,
of them.
two of them,
Yeah,
yeah.
and
Two?
that's one of the locations that I'd like to stop at. And then Ron Walter has one, and so
Okay,
he's one that I toured. And then I'm hoping to talk to Arlene Jones. So it would kind of be a nice channel up, and I know Arlene's not in Morrison County, but, you know, just channel right up 10-371. So fingers are crossed. I'm gonna also seek other funding because since this portion of extension is kind of new here, I don't know if everybody's gonna be willing to throw over $20 or $30 at me right away to jump on a bus, where if I can offer it free, then they can realize how great we are. And maybe they'll be willing to pay for things down the line. So that one I'm pretty excited about, and in addition, I'm really just making contacts about offering good agricultural practice, so GAPS training here in the area. I'm collaborating a bit with my coworker in Douglas County. She will be just added time in January, same with me. Local foods is her focus, and so I kind of don't want to recreate the wheel 2 times. I mean, here to Alex, not too bad. Maybe we meet in the middle, or we offer some things over there and offer some things here as well. So GAPS is one that I'm working on. Also, I'll pass this flyer around because can't hurt to get the word out.
Will those
There.
tunnels be affected, excuse me, will those tunnels be affected with the food hub quite a bit? I mean,
Yes.
That'd be a big part of
It-
getting.
Potentially a
product
market for them. And that's depending on the grower. You know, they might seek out that opportunity. Depends what route, you know, because if they go the wholesale route through the Sprout program that's distributed to the schools and the hospitals and stuff, they probably can go find a better, buck for it. And this class that's gonna be offered, it's gonna be at the Initiative Foundation, so Little Falls has a host site. And it's really Farmers Market Academy, and as you can see, we're gonna have 2 extension educators speaking about kind of the laws that are involved with it, so the cottage food law, the changes with that, as well as Ryan Pesch will be talking about the dollars, you know, really what is it gonna come down to, and how should you market it, and what price should you expect for
January 5th,
January
for
5th.
those of you who aren't going south.
I know I'm attempting to clear my calendar right now. I had another commitment and I'm trying to get out of it, so, because that literally just came in my inbox today. Other opportunities that are gonna be out there that I'm just hoping to get the word out,
that Holiday Growers and Makers Market is this Saturday, so at the Sprout. So I'm not sure if you plan on attending, but it'd be a great opportunity for you to see what they have going on. And then Ryan Pesch is going to be doing the presentation of that benchmark project that I've been working with him on, which is what's the dollars and cents of a grower? How much are their expenses? What's their intake? And so we've been collecting data and taking a look at, I think we have 11 different growers in kind of a 5-county region. We had at least one participant out of Morrison County. She was in the far, far southeast corner. I don't know if I've ever been that far in the county, but, so his presentation is 3 to 4 this Saturday. I'm gonna miss it, I'm at a wedding, but I plan on stopping in the morning to kind of see what they have going on. So if, like I said, it works in your schedule, we'd love to have you there. Upper Midwest Fruit and Vegetable Growers Conference is in St. Cloud. I help out a little bit with that, but more just in attendance. Extension has a big role in that. And that's another group that I just don't know if some of our growers here are aware of. You know, it's a membership to be able to go. There's a cost, of course, for the conference, but it's really good. You know, they have assistance on growing things and tips and all sorts of stuff. So I'll be busy heading off to some of these things in the next few months. Otherwise, maybe you see my articles. I write weekly articles, sometimes very specific to local food growers, other times just generic of, I just had a conversation with Scott at KLTF last week about how to prep your flowers or your plants for winter and getting things ready. Otherwise, extension's just rolling. This is supposed to be planning season, but with the nice growing, or nice outside weather, I've been certainly still getting calls and sidetracking me. I want to plan, but we'll get to it. So, questions?
Gentlemen, any questions?
Thank you.
Very
Yeah.
informative.
I would have
Thank
a
you.
couple questions. First of all, is there a permit required to put in a building permit, anything like that? Or a greenhouse or anything like that?
Well, if you were in like a city limit structure, there,
How
you
about
know.
out in the county?
But out in the county, no. And then mine personally is actually even going on some ACUB land structure, so that, you know, part of that
Oh,
government
yep,
buffer
yep,
zone.
yep, yep, yep.
But agricultural structures can be constructed, so.
Okay, and there's a report that came out recently that I read regarding the poisoning of the soils in a high tunnel. Okay, regarding more prone to fungus, and then they use fungicides, and they start using stuff, and it creates this poison environment. Have you read something
Haven't read
about that?
that.
Yeah, there's something really interesting.
Interesting.
I'm trying to think of where I read that, but where the environment within that high tunnel becomes poison because of all the stuff that happens within it, and then they start using insecticides and pesticides and herbicides, and it really
It'd be
destroys
interesting to read that.
destroys the environment.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to read that, because in general, high tunnels, they say, you know, that pesticide and is decreased because it's a much more controlled environment. And so that's been one of the huge benefits as well, not only the season extension, but their,
I'll have to see where I
yeah,
saw
pass
that
it
and
on
get to you.
sometime if you
Okay.
find it.
Okay, those are the questions I had. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
I'd really
Thank
be
you.
curious, if you don't mind, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
with one more question as to, how do you do soil management inside that high tunnel?
Right. Honestly, it's not that much different. It's just now your equipment use. So mine, and I know Ron's, he's got a high ceiling in his. He could get a full-size tractor just about rolling
Oh,
through
really?
that. You know, his is really wide door and tall.
Okay.
But the plan is, old compost manure and, you know, all the stuff just continues to go in there. So, and a lot of them will use liquid fertilizer as well. So it's on like a timer with their watering system. Because I mean, you're not getting any rain.
Oh, absolutely.
So, you know, watering is critical in finding out the key things. So they use drip tape systems in them, and then many who've got this thing figured out, they will have it with liquid fertilizer, and it's just put in with the drip that it goes into the system. It's all like timed or quantity. I mean, there's a whole, and that's why I think it's so important that we kind of, I need to learn, everybody needs to learn, because the opportunities are there, whether they pay for the tunnel all on their own, or, you know, they're getting some grant assistance, but
Yeah.
why not do it right if you're gonna do it, so.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You
Commissioner
bet.
Wilson?
When you say no building permit, that seems hard to believe that there wouldn't be some in some areas.
It's you're right, some areas, like I said, within the limits and
in
stuff.
cities.
But even in
It's,
country or lakes or,
it's so not permanent is the thing with them. You know, they're not, when you say, oh, so it's a green up, but it's not, you know, this thing, I mean, yeah, I've put a lot of hours in putting it up, but it's really not a permanent structure. Some of them even come on like wheeled tracks, so you can move them, on and off.
but when you
So-
start talking about big ones where you can drive through and stuff, that just seems like that doesn't fit the right
Yeah.
criteria.
And drive through, when I say full-size tractor, we're probably
Yeah.
talking like,
I know, I know what you-
you know, yeah, it's, like I said, it's really just intended to, it's a
Temporary cover.
temporary kind of cover.
Yeah,
And that's why most of the, you know, some of them pull that plastic off, but. ooh,
comes
yeah.
easy and it can go easy.
It Second time around might be easier than the first time.
I'm sure it will be.
Well, very good, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Okay, have a great day, man.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, thank you, you
Thank you.
too. All right, auditors report, Deb.
Good morning.
Good morning, Deb.
We have a couple of items. Raffle permit for Mary of Lourdes School.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Section.
A motion and a second, further discussion. May heard, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Okay, and then we have the Trail Assistance Program Agreement for fiscal year 2016, Morrison County Recreational Trails Association.
I'll make a motion on that.
I would second that.
Motion and a second, further discussion.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Jelinski.
if I may, is this the point in time where we're talking about liability on our trail? Is this the thing we've discussed in the past where the state has the rule, if you will, and it's the county's problem if something happens on the trail?
And I think our engineer is sitting in the back shaking his head,
Yep.
so maybe he can elaborate on the question you have regarding the issue with the ditches and right-of-ways.
No, I believe this is to be able to transfer funds from the DNR to the Trail Association for grooming
Oh,
and those
okay,
areas.
sure.
That's what it says.
Thank
yeah,
you.
grouping.
Yeah.
But I just was making sure that.
We continue to work on that.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Okay, separate issue?
Okay,
Okay,
very
other
good.
questions, gentlemen?
I
Heard
just-
none.
I just like to give all the people that work on these trails a lot of credit because they volunteer a lot of their time. And I know in Morrison County, our trail system, especially for four-wheelers and those things are in very, very good shape. So I want to thank the groups that do that.
And this in particular one is snowmobile.
Snowmobiles. This one is
But
just
it's the same
snowmobiles.
trail.
Yep.
It's the same trail, so.
Maybe I could just clarify, this year they've changed the funding just slightly, that if they don't use the funds, they don't get the funds.
Okay, so
So
we have a motion and a second. Further discussion, gentlemen? Roll call vote, Commissioner Jelinski,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Winchell. Aye.
Okay, one more thing, I just wanted to update you guys. I've gotten a few calls since the land sale last
Yep.
week, and I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware the properties that didn't sell and the ones that haven't sold in the past are still up for sale at our office for the minimum bid. So anybody can walk in and buy those. That includes anybody but the public officials
Yep.
that were involved in setting the prices. But anybody else from the public can walk in and buy those at the minimum prices that we set.
Commissioner
Mr. Chair.
Johnson.
Deb, has anybody come in?
Nobody has come in yet.
Okay,
We've had a
okay.
few calls about them, but
Okay, sure.
And how long
Thank
does
you.
that stay, those minimum bids?
those minimum bids stay until we have another auction, at which price we can offer them for sale again, or we could reduce the price and put them back up for auction,
Or maybe increase the price.
or increase the
Who's to say?
price, exactly.
Are you thinking of doing it in the spring again?
Yeah, we're gonna look at all the properties that that are forfeiting next year and the ones that are currently sitting out there. We have several smaller properties that have been sitting out there for a while. We wanna look at cleaning those up
Sure.
also.
Good.
And see if we can't just clean a whole bunch of things up and get them off the
We'd
tax.
really like to get that one for $100 off the books.
Really. And actually, there's a whole bunch of little ones like that.
Sure.
All right, other questions? So roll, well, we're done, right?
We're done.
All right, we're done.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Okay. All right, County Board warrants. Deb, you're
Oh,
here.
yeah, I'm still.
I would so move on the warrants.
Gentlemen, with commissioner expenses, everything?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion? Roll call vote. Commissioner Jelinski.
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson.
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson.
Aye.
Commissioner Wincher.
Aye.
And aye.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Deb. Steve, come on up. Public Works, I believe.
No,
I don't think
we
so.
have
Steve's just.
Steve Messerschmidt.
Just a minute.
Well, he said Public Works.
Right
that's
here.
correct.
Wrong.
Public Works.
Messerschmidt.
It says Public Works report.
No, I know. There's more.
Public Works, Steve.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
members
yes,
of the board.
Good morning,
Good
Steve.
morning, Steve.
Yes, it's this Steve, so we got that thing.
Is this an
Oh,
old?
okay.
I have a couple resolutions for your consideration today. Those are the originals. And these are for the board. Commissioner Wincher might get that chunk of property for his birthday. He behaved himself. But I did have an opportunity to tour the city of Royalton with Commissioner Wincher yesterday, and that's what brings forward our resolutions today. I think the Commissioner attended a meeting in which the Safe Routes to School project that's going on in the city of Royalton was discussed. Also, the speed limits within the city of Royalton became a topic of discussion. County State Aid Highway 26 is our main east and west route through the city of Royalton. On the east side of Highway 10 and south of 26 along the high school, County State Aid Highway 54 is under the county board's, Morrison County's board's jurisdiction. It turns into Benton County for about maybe a quarter of a mile, the last quarter of a mile. It's their County State Aid Highway 24 where it intersects with Highway 10. From County State Aid Highway 26 to the north then is under our jurisdiction. It's our County Road 234. County State Aid Highway 26 east and west was zoned at 30 miles an hour by the state of Minnesota a long time ago, which is the minimum speed zone that can be established through that area. There is some statutory direction on how it could be reduced in front of the high school, but it isn't currently because of the way access is provided to the high school. The north and south stretch, though, is zoned at 35 miles an hour, most of it within our jurisdiction, and that had become an issue when it was being discussed at the meeting, that the 35 mile an hour zone, based on the fact that the high school is expanding, a substantial expansion, and they're going to be bringing preschool and kindergarten into that facility. The other thing that is, although there hasn't been a lot of new access taking place on either segment, the roads that, and streets that currently or previously accessed off of those two segments of highway have substantially developed in the back areas and the tiers behind our roadways that have really added a lot of traffic to both of these pieces of roadway. And so following our review, we agreed that I would bring this forward for the board's consideration to request that MnDOT does a traffic investigation and determine the appropriate speed zone through these areas. It is at 35 miles an hour. We're after a 30 mile an hour zone. Through the school area is a 20 mile an hour zone, but we can do that, and we have done that on our own. The 30 mile an hour zone would be the permanent zone, whether there's children at school or not. And so that's what we're requesting, that the board have the state review, because based on conditions out there, they would have to establish this zone. We couldn't do it on our own.
And if I may, Mr. Chair, Steve, just part of that 234 that goes into Benton County is actually 40 miles an hour.
Yeah, once you hit Benton County, it's 40.
Well, no, even before that, because right where the 20, I mean, if you look at there's a 40 mile an hour.
It would be a small segment,
Right,
I
it's
think.
probably
within-
less than, but Morrison County has the 40 mile an hour speed limit, and then it goes to Benton County.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
Steve,
Commissioner
it's
Wilson.
35 right now, and you want to get it down to 30, correct?
we want to bring that 35 mile an hour zone down to 30. The 40 mile an hour zone, that probably could maybe even be dropped some, whether they're gonna go to a 30 or not. There's some talk about other things happening in that area where if those occurred, that certainly would warrant that whole stretch from Highway 10 to 26 being at 30.
Steve, what determines that? I guess when I go to Buckman and you go out of town, it's 30 miles an hour a long ways out. So is that because their city limits maybe goes out that far, but there's no houses and stuff? And I can see coming in where you would want to be slowing down.
Yeah.
But I'm just curious.
A lot of it, those zones were established when the roads were built a long time ago, and they've just been carried on for many, many years. It's become more of an issue as people have wanted to zone, they want to zone everything down, utilizing that to the lower zones as their control for speed. And so to get these zones reduced has become much more difficult over, I'd say, the last 10 years. It should be, what it's based on, though, it's based on the amount of development along the roadway. It should be based on the amount of development along the roadway, the amount of access. And it also is based on, they do radar checks. It's based on what's comfortable for the driver themselves. You're not trying to create a situation where you have everybody feeling comfortable to drive 40 miles an hour and zone it at 30 so that everybody's violating the law. So you're trying to balance that in setting that zone. When you get into a municipal area, typically those municipal areas just are naturally 30 miles an hour, and although people have more of a tendency, especially of a curb and gutter section, to drive closer to that speed.
And one last, I'm assuming the state gets done with this within a week or two, it takes them, correct?
This will take some time. I would suspect 6 months probably.
Okay, Commissioner.
I'll make a motion on this, sir.
There's 2 resolutions, one for each segment. I've talked with Benton County Engineer and he supports this. If they need to do a resolution, if the state wants for their portion, he would take that into their board. But one resolution is from 10 to 26, the other one is from 26 to, I think it's 53rd Street in
Can we
Wilton.
do both these together or separately?
Probably separate, because they're roll calls, both of them. Let's take the first one.
Okay, I'll make a motion on the first one.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion is second, further discussion? Roll call, Commissioner Jelinski.
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson.
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson.
Aye.
Commissioner Winchell.
Aye.
And aye. Second one, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Motion is second, further discussion? Roll call, Commissioner Jelinski.
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson.
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson.
Aye.
Commissioner Winchell.
Aye.
Aye.
I was away. I wasn't, no.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Did we need a roll call?
It's okay, it's fine.
No, thank you, Steve.
Thank you very much.
That's fine.
Appreciate it.
Oh, we did, we got her covered.
Thanks,
Yes,
Steve.
it's fine, it does not hurt.
All right,
Now for sure.
Steve, your turn, come on up.
Well, Mr. Chair, Steve, you just have the cash report, which
Yeah, it's
FYI,
just the
he
cash
has the cash report.
Yeah.
That's where Beth was still having that under the auditor treasurer, and that's what she was talking about.
Oh, I see,
Yes.
I see.
There you
It's
go.
all right.
We're lost,
Yeah.
okay.
Would it be okay for him to come up if you'd like to?
If he wants to come up, he can, we don't wanna, we don't wanna.
Actually,
I'll be coming up for meetings tomorrow.
yeah, Steve can come
Okay.
up if he'd like, because I've got a couple of things if you're ready to move
So
on
it's
to that
administrator's report, all
Yes.
right, come on up, Steve, I guess.
I have a few different items.
You're not confused?
Oh, boy, I'm confused.
something, I don't know.
Put me in the corner with the bubble gum in my nose.
All right,
Mr. Chair, as you recall, last week there were a few of us at an AMC district meeting, AMC
Yes.
being the Association of Minnesota Counties, the lobbying association for county government. And in that discussion, there was a report on a group that was formed to work on county program aid and the formula for county program aid. I can tell you this isn't something that's been high on my radar or high on Steve's radar. We were talking about that just because Morrison County has been in a situation in which there hasn't been tremendous variation of county program aid like in some parts of the state. So it was one of those issues, or it is one of those issues that hasn't, I didn't work on the work group where some administrators in different parts of the state who've really been impacted by fluctuation in county program aid have been more involved in that. In particular, I don't have the map with me here, but if you saw in that handout, there's the southwest part of the state, for the most part, has had more variation in that. So this group was identified to get together to take a look at whether or not there are options that we want to go as a group, a unified group, to go to the legislature to try to really essentially flatten out all of the peaks and valleys of county program aid. So county government can be a little bit more reliant on that aid and determine what and how it plays into a part of their budget. So the result was presented. It does have an increase that the group was requesting or identifying to the state legislature that would increase that total allotment for county program aid by $40 million. So it's a significant increase of that, and I don't know what the total allotment is. Is it in the, do you know, Steve, offhand? I don't know if it says it in here, what the whole state allots to.
Oh, what is it? It was here 248 million.
Was that the old or the new? Is that with the extra 40?
That's a new formula, would be based on that.
So then it would have been a $210 million allotment, give or take.
Right.
So it's looking to increase that, but what it does is it really establishes that base amount, and it allows for less fluctuation if there are changes in programming and what the legislature allots. And so the AMC was requesting that each county consider this support request. And the idea is that if we approach it as a whole, as an organization, it's less likely that there are special interests in various parts of the state that would approach this issue and then possibly impact
Get
in a
more or
negative
less
way.
money,
To other parts of the state. So that's why this work group was put together. There's a lot of different representation on it, and this is the end result. So
And I think it says at the end where it can't fluctuate more than 5% annually, which
Yep.
is a good thing as far as budgeting and whatever else, and that's why that is. Questions, gentlemen?
But it doesn't stop them from unallocating us like they've done in the past too.
No,
Right.
and they haven't done that a lot, but they have done that. But yeah, it's one of those where if everything's good and if the funding is available and if that's moving forward, to have this be a little bit more stable for the entire state. Because some counties have been very impacted. They didn't hit the core foundation of the formula and how it's dispersed, but they hit those peaks and valleys.
This has been a topic of conversation
Okay.
for years and years and years to get this, but there's never ever a fair way for everyone to come out ahead in this.
This hopefully is more level and more fair though. as you
Yes.
said.
That's the.
Exactly.
Other discussion, gentlemen? Do I have a motion?
I'll move on that, Mr. Chair.
I have a motion on the floor and a second. Further discussion? Having heard none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed, motion carries to support this.
All right, we will get that down to AMC and let them know that we are in support of that, and we'll see what happens in the legislature coming up. Just letting you know that the MACV office, the one downstairs that has occupied that little office building by the assessor's office there, there was a change in staff, and that individual lives elsewhere, so they are going to move locations. Paul Peterson is his name, that worked out of the Duluth office that made those arrangements a few years back already. It's been a number of them. Been a great relationship, he did an excellent job, but they're moving locations, so just wanted to let you know that that will be vacated, and that service still does exist, it just won't be located here in Morrison County. And Kathy, our VSO, is well aware of that, and I'm gonna continue with that relationship, but just wanted to give you a heads up on that.
Questions, gentlemen? So were we receiving income for that?
Yeah, it's minimal, the
Some rent.
same rate that we have for the nonprofits that we work closely with, so minimal.
Just curious.
It was just a nice, they were very, Paul was very appreciative of the work and appreciative of the board allowing that relationship to occur and that utilization of that space, so thank you for that.
It's not gonna break the budget, but I believe it.
No, it was nice to have him here.
All right.
Then also just a discussion, for the annual budget process, there is the need to have a public hearing set for the fee schedule that we have. And so just input from you as to whether or not you want that public hearing at the same time the truth and taxation meeting is, which is 7 PM on December 3rd. When is that?
Are you okay with that, gentlemen, doing it at the same time?
Did we do that last year?
We
did.
did.
Have we usually?
It should
We usually have the same time.
We need to do
It is the
that.
third.
There might be
The
something
third
that
at
would be-
7 o'clock, yep.
What's the flip side if we don't do it then? We would do
We
it at
do
the
it at the
same
meeting
time.
that you, well, or at the meeting that you set the budget at, but part of the budget really is the fees. I mean, and that's used to determine our budget and used to determine then the levy that we need. So and our recommendation would be to do that at the truth and taxation meeting, because
We're all
that's when
here
we're
and we have a
discussing
schedule
that.
that we can.
And we can
Okay
advertise
with
that
that,
at.
gentlemen?
December 3rd, correct?
December 3rd,
Yep,
truth and
it's
taxation.
part
Put
of
her
that
on.
truth and taxation, we
Put
can
her
get
on.
that, and we have time to do that, but just wanted to let you know.
What time we can do that, because the notices have gone out, so we may be,
We do it at the same time in conjunction with that truth and taxation meeting.
There's enough time to advertise.
Yeah.
We get it out.
right. We have the truth and taxation go out, that the hearing's gonna start at 7
Fee
o'clock.
schedule.
Yes.
Well, and that can be part of the hearing.
Okay,
is that fee
all right.
schedule.
I just wanna make sure that there's
Yep.
not an issue there,
I don't
because
think
there is.
so, I can't imagine it is. Do you see one,
Okay.
Deb?
You just need to make sure that everybody understands there are two separate hearings.
Yeah.
Gotta close
And then the
one.
board needs to agree to which fees you're taking to that hearing, so that we can advertise them this weekend,
We need to advertise a summary of the
the changes.
changes for the public hearing. There aren't any major changes, those that have been identified and discussed when we've presented budgets. Steve, I don't know if you can hit on, I can't even think of where some changes.
Well, the biggest change was in the licenses, liquor license, where, you know, if they went in to get their training, they get the same fee, otherwise they pay a increased fee.
Yep, yep.
That was the major change there. And the others were, there was a planning and zoning one, which was a removal of a fee. Feedlot environmental review was $500, and they removed that in 2016 as a plan. I think then the recorder had one that was just a noted one, it was a $20 for a social security, change in social security, some kind of assessment or something that they do. And the other one was Public Works, they had a few changes to mailbox repairs, signs and posts, another mailbox. Then they did some changes in their keyboard, their computer stuff that they do, this is the landfill, they had some changes in their, the computer stuff that came, electronics per tons, $5 to $7. You know, so they had just a few changes there and a few different things that he talked about, I think, during either a planning session or the budget meeting. And I think that's it. Recorders, it was a social security affidavit. I knew it was something with social security. I just can't remember exactly what it was.
Sounds good.
So at this point in time, unless we hear anything different from you at this point, we're going to identify those as the major changes within the fee schedule. We'll talk about it during that whole process and go from there.
Very good.
Sounds
Okay.
good. We good, guys? All right.
That should be it.
Schedule
Thank
that
you.
then.
Steve, thank you very kindly.
Yes,
Oh, Deb?
What? Oh, sorry.
yes.
I just wanted to know if the board wanted to notify the people with liquor licenses about this change, or just put the notification in the paper.
I believe, well, we've,
I don't know that you haven't come and really talked to the board a lot about
We
that liquor
haven't,
license change.
but because it's a fairly big change, and if they don't get the beverage server training,
Well,
we
if they don't know about it, you know, if somebody all of a sudden sends me a bill, which I got one the other day, because I forgot about going through Colorado, they just read your license plate number and then they bill you for driving on the road. I mean, if they just send you a bill and you don't know it, or there's an increase and you don't know it, I don't know that it would hurt one bit to send a letter.
No.
I would think you'd want to send a letter so that you're letting them know exactly what we're talking
Sure.
about here.
Yeah.
That's, I don't think.
Mr.
they-
Commissioner Johnson.
My question, now, that can be done, beverage server training can be done with the county, or a lot of them probably do with their insurance companies.
Correct.
Am I right?
Yep.
And I think a lot of them do it right now,
Yeah.
so.
And public health
But-
is willing to follow up to ensure
Okay.
that they've got that, whoever they got it through.
Yep, but I think they should know about it.
Mr. Chair, maybe Deb, you can come to the planning session next week and have this as a topic with the folks that are involved and identify what, because I know you and Katie were going back and forth, but I
Yeah.
hadn't seen it come yet to the board about what the change is that you're proposing. So maybe we can get
Sounds
some
good.
more
Sure.
detail on
Sounds
it.
good.
Yep.
Yep, put that in a planning session. All right.
Good, very good.
All right, anything else?
No, I think that's it.
Thank you
Thank you.
for your patience and understanding.
They just want to talk to us.
And next, Deb?
I just want to let you know, and I'm sure you're well aware, that we received communication from Crow Wing County that they have exercised a right that they have, which is to exit the joint powers agreement that we have for corrections. As you are all well aware, we are a member of a 3-county board between Crow Wing, Aiken, and Morrison County to deliver community corrections through the Community Correction Act. And so with that change, obviously that means a change for us in Morrison County. What that is going to be yet is to be determined. I know tomorrow we have a meeting, we're going to go to an executive committee meeting with CMCC and staff, Nicole Kern, which number one, we're very lucky to have her. She's very competent and her and I work very well together. So I'm excited and pleased to know she's part of Morrison County. But we are working on answering some of the questions we're assuming you're going to have, and that we have, to be able to get the information for you, like what our options are moving forward, and if we want to continue in any type of joint effort with other counties, if we want to bring that in-house and have it as a county department, what those options are, what they look like, and what it means financially for Morrison County. One thing I am pleased to say is that we do have options, and we do have a great staff here in Morrison County. So that eases my mind, and hopefully wanted to extend that so it eases your mind, that we are going to be just fine. We just need to figure out all of the technicalities of what it means moving forward. Crow Wing County did identify that the date that they're going to exit is going to be July of 2016. And in working with DOC and trying to figure out what our responsibilities are with them, what we need to do to notify them, we're going to move forward. And as soon as we can get some solid information for you, we're going to bring it forward and identify and let you know what some of the major issues are, what the questions are, and what some of those answers are.
And if I may, Mr. Chair,
Yes,
they
you may.
not only opted out of the community corrections, they also opted out of TCC, as Doug did mention that, as a representative Crow Wing too. So they're removing themselves from a lot of organizations, I believe, here in the last few months. They wanted to remove themselves from WIC. So again, I don't know what's going on up there, but they're doing a lot of different things.
So we have some time, Deb.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
We do, we
It's
do.
not effective till July.
Yep, we're
so-
working with some different folks to get some answers. You know, I have questions about how that is orchestrated with labor, how that is orchestrated with the legalities of a joint powers. Brian will be involved, Steve Messerschmidt will be involved with finances, and everybody that, you know, we need to get you some information. I'm going to do the best job, and Nicole is, and all of us are gonna do the best job anticipating what that information is that you'll need. So we're gonna take a little time to do that. And I spoke with Tim Hoyle the other day, and he is very, very aware of the fact that the decision a county makes, and every county has a right to make decisions about what to do in terms of service delivery for their organizations. That, you have every right as much as they do to determine what's best for their organization and the citizens they serve. But Tim was very concerned and really wants to work with us to make sure that we get questions answered, to make sure that we're all doing the best we can to move forward. And like I said, I know we can do that, and I know we can do it well. And so, again, the staff here is great. Nicole is great. I think we have a good set of circumstances moving into what we will eventually define, but we don't know yet how that's going to play out. But I'm quite confident that it will be just fine, and we will continue to deliver great services in Morrison County. So.
Mr. Chair?
Yes,
I have
Commissioner
one
Johnson.
question, just for the board here. We will be having, and we'll decide tomorrow, but I think on the 16th of December, there will be a joint powers meeting in Brainerd.
With everyone, or with just the two members
Well,
from each?
we're not sure.
With
They're
all-
gonna be in it for 6 months, so I'm not sure how that will go, but we'll be talking about that tomorrow. But we have to have a joint powers meeting one a year.
Oh, that's the annual that all the county board
Right,
members.
that all,
That's what I
all
was
three
asking.
county boards, 15
Full
commissioners
boards.
are there.
Okay,
Yep,
okay,
yep.
okay.
So that should be coming on the 16th of December, but we'll know more tomorrow.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, yes.
Maybe you can help me understand. I know we're at joint powers right now, and we're with Aiken.
Yes.
And my understanding is that we could be on our own. I don't know why we can, but Aiken, I'm not sure can.
Well,
So-
to my understanding, and
Yep,
just
how
to
does
give
that
you a
work?
little step back, there are three different ways that probation services can be delivered in the state of Minnesota. You can be a CPO, and the acronym is, I lost it here, how that works. That's the arrangement is that the courts are more involved with the supervision of probation. It's a county delivery model. Another delivery model is a DOC model, where it's the state function, where the agents that are working in individual counties are employees of the state, and they are coming in and performing that service. The third option is a Community Corrections Act option. So there's three different ways statute allows us to be able to do that, or allows that service to be performed. We are Community Corrections County through this joint powers agreement. There are some caveats to each of those and how they are operating. One of them is that you have to have a minimum population for community corrections and to be that a county. We do meet that minimum population level now. We didn't way back when it was established, but we do now. There have been other requirements that statute had placed, but that have changed throughout the years. One of them is it had to be contiguous counties. It no longer has to be. So Aiken and Morrison aren't contiguous, but that has since changed. So it could continue that Aiken and Morrison could move forward together. It could be that Morrison would be on our own because we meet the requirements and still are able to perform corrections under that same Community Corrections Act. Or there could be some type of arrangement in between there, but we don't know the answers to all of that. But what I think what I'm guessing you want to know, but you tell me different, is that you want to know the pros and cons of all of the options moving forward. And you want to understand maybe what the cost implications are of those. And you want to probably understand what it means for not only those we serve, the people that work here, and the organization as a whole. And that's the kind of question, and those questions are what I'm anticipating, so we want to have the answers to it. Does that make sense?
Well, it does, and what would happen to Aiken? If Aiken doesn't
Yeah, I
have a
know.
population, I know that they have to be the ones to find that out,
Yep.
but still,
It-
they've been a good working
Yeah.
relationship, and I still think we should be looking at that.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah,
I think
we
that's
will.
one of the options
Yep.
that we need to take a
We
look at.
will.
As I assume they are looking at their options also in terms of what to do moving forward and what can they do, what can't they do, how that can work. So absolutely, I would assume every county needs to look at what can happen and then determine what the pros and cons are to each of those scenarios and then move forward with it.
Sounds good, thank you.
All right. Other questions, gentlemen? All right, Deb?
Next, I have a resolution that will close the board meeting. We've been in negotiations, labor negotiations with AFSCME units. We have two units. We have a public works unit and a social services unit. I have tentative agreements, but I need to go through those with you. I haven't done that yet. Want to go through those, and then we'll reopen to consider that.
We're gonna do that now. Would you like us to take a break first and then
Nope, I would
close
like
it?
you to entertain this resolution that would close the meeting first.
And, okay, and then we can go on break during the closed meeting session.
After this resolution.
Should we do our calendars first?
Calendars.
Oh, that would be great, yes. The
Yeah,
calendars
calendars
Thank you.
first.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. All right, calendars, gentlemen, from when to when?
I need your schedules from November 21st until December 4th, please.
Commissioner Wincher.
21st of November.
Yep,
It's a Saturday.
I gotta find it here first here.
To December
Good day,
4th,
Sheriff.
right?
That's a Saturday, so and when was the last date?
December
November,
4th.
yeah, December 4th,
December
sorry.
4th, okay. All right. Okay, so nothing there. On the 23rd, there's a Public Works at 8:30.
Okay,
There's a Planning Commission at 7 PM,
okay,
which I will not be attending because I'll be gone. There's a planning session on the 24th at 8:30. And there's a budget meeting at 1 on the 24th. Nothing there, I'm sure I'm gonna miss some. On the first, there's a board meeting at 9 AM on December. I'll be attending the Bellevue Township meeting on the 2nd of which is a Wednesday, that's at 7 PM. And on Thursday, or the 3rd, obviously, Truth and Taxation at 7 PM, and then the public hearing.
Wonderful, thank you.
And the 4th?
That's a Friday. TCC, yep.
T-SWAC.
T-SWAC, yeah, what did I say? Yeah. T-SWAC.
T-SWAC it is?
T-SWAC on Friday at 8:30. Commissioner Jelinski.
Through the 6th, Beth?
Through the 4th.
4th, okay.
You can do Saturday and Sunday if you want.
For anybody that's
Well, we got
interested, on the
some-
22nd, St. Mary's is having their Christmas Bazaar here in Little Falls. I'm sure you're all interested in that. On the 23rd at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and I do not know if I'm going to be able to make this or not, but there's an irrigation meeting at the Royalton Legion. I believe Benton County Soil and Water puts that on. At 5 o'clock on the 23rd, there's a Stand Up For You meeting at the middle school.
At the middle school?
At the middle school.
And P and Z, right?
Yep.
In the evening at 7. Or he may be getting that already.
Yeah, he did that already.
Okay, okay.
On the 29th, Sunday, the 29th of November, is the Chaplaincy's Pizza Party at the VFW. I think that starts at 11. On the 1st of December, there should be a Board of Adjustments meeting at 7 o'clock in the evening.
Thank you.
On the 2nd of December, this is actually Kevin's, there's a Public Health Advisory meeting
At 5 o'clock,
at 5 o'clock.
Public Health Library.
And at 10 o'clock on the 3rd, I have an Armor State Emergency Communications Board conference call. That's a legislative call. And then we have T-SWAC. That's all I have. Thank you.
Commissioner Johnson.
Okay, 23rd, I think, Randy said it, P and Z, and then we got Public Works at 8:30 in the morning. 24th, Planning and Budget. On the 3rd of December, I got a South Country meeting at 9 o'clock in the morning in Owatonna.
Okay,
The T-SWAC on the 4th, that's it.
wonderful, thank you.
Commissioner Wilson.
I'm covered on all those.
Okay.
Anything to add?
Nope.
All right. All right, let's see here. All those so far, let's see. Yes, you may. Oh, you're asking me though, but anyways.
I would like to look at the end of the year in December.
I think I have,
I'd
I
like to
think
see
I'm
what we got.
covered, except for the public health advisory that I think Commissioner Jelinski said was mine. He took care of the only thing that I didn't.
Sounds good, wonderful, thank you.
What a
guys.
guy, huh?
All right.
Deb, I would like to ask on our calendars about the end of the year. I have December 31st, I got a county board, but on January 1st, I got T-SWAC, so I presume we don't have, right?
On the first?
Unless you want it.
Holiday,
If
it's
you
a
want to
holiday.
go to landfill on the
I'm
first
just
day.
trying to, I'm trying to figure out if we have a schedule made up already
For
for the last week and, you know,
The 31st, we'll have a board meeting, we have year-end
Yep.
cleanup
Yep.
items.
okay,
The first, we won't have
It's
a
a
meeting
holiday.
out at the
Okay.
landfill, it's
because
closed.
mine
We
shows
won't.
there is.
And then,
So are we extending our,
No, I'm asking because I'm
But if
trying to
Steve
figure out
asked,
if I'm gonna be gone for a period of time and the kids are out of school.
I
I'm
see.
trying to see what's going on and I had a meeting on January 1st, which I knew we wouldn't have.
yeah, but the 31st, we will have one that morning.
it lasts about 20 minutes.
Right,
To do all
right,
the bills and.
okay.
On the 5th of January, I think there's a Board of Adjustments meeting.
Well, and my guess is that will be the first meeting in 2016, we don't have that
For a board
agenda,
meeting, more
yeah.
likely on that
It's
Tuesday.
usually as close, the first Tuesday of January is typically when it is.
Yep, okay, okay.
Nicole's working on putting that together, and we will approve that in December, that 2016
Schedule.
schedule of meetings. Does that make sense? I don't know of
Yeah,
anything else,
well,
it's
I'm
usually
just
pretty
trying
quiet, Mike.
I'm just trying to figure out, because the kids are out
Yeah.
of school there for a while, and if we go somewhere, I'm trying to figure out where we have
We
things
can always
like.
Skype too, you know.
Kids are out of school, I hang
You
out
can
with them a
send me
little
an
too.
email.
We're going to Skype.
All
Okay,
right,
I just thought I'd
Yep,
ask.
no,
Yep.
good question.
Are we ready to close the meeting?
There's the consideration of the resolution that's
I
presented.
think we need to have
for
a motion for that. I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
A motion and a second, further discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Take a short break.